This is about the self-defense of Iraq, and the Iraqis, no question,
But
are
that's
threatened.
Iraq. What about Syria?
Well, let me explain. They're threatened by the safe havens in Syria, by the growth of this terrorist cell. They've asked us to come in and help them. We are defending them, and that's the legal authority that our lawyers
You're working under the Cheney
behind.
document.
Certainly not. We work under international law. We work under domestic law.
Sounds Cheney document to me.
Oh, no, certainly not the Cheney document. Joining us now, ladies and gentlemen, John Yoo, professor of law at Berkeley Law, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General of the United States, and co-drafter of the so-called torture memos, a man who was so instrumental in keeping this country safe after 9/11, and the author of Point of Attack, Preventive War, International Law, and Global Welfare. John, great to speak to you again, sir. What do you make of this whole denial by the administration that they're operating under the authorizations put in place under the Bush administration to do what they're doing in Iraq and Syria now?
The administration are total hypocrites, but I'm glad they're being hypocrites because they're doing the right thing. They just can't stand to admit it, because to do that would admit that they were wrong in the 2008 and 2012 elections, and that the Bush administration was right all along. Now, there's no Cheney document out there. I don't know where the report shows you how well informed some reporters at these press conferences. I think he meant the Cheney doctrine. There's no Cheney doctrine.
Right. That was actually Shep Smith in an in-studio interview. Yeah.
Oh, it's just, I mean, that was bad staffing. Your producers are better than that, Steve. I know that.
No, yeah, well, you mean better than his? I don't know about
yes.
that. I mean, I guess it's an honest mistake. He probably said the wrong word. I don't know him at all. But anyway, yeah, no, you're right. There's no Cheney document, right?
No, what they're referring to is the idea that the United States has the right under international law to use force to defend our allies and our national interests. And in Iraq, we are defending the government there. We are protecting our own national security against a terrorist group that has said openly wants to take actions against us and launch attacks on our homeland. It has come into possession of what we always feared during the Bush years, a large amount of territory, population, and sophisticated weapons. And if this terrorist group is in Syria too, I think the United States has the right to pursue them. But I might add, this was the thing that the Bush administration's critics, like President Obama, were jumping up and down screaming about in the 2000s, after the 2006 election, after the Iraq invasion, really, and then after that. And you had people like President Obama arguing that the president couldn't use force in these situations and that Congress had to give its approval too, none of which they have done here so far.
How do you feel about the resignation of Eric Holder and what's going to be an attempt reportedly by the president to get a lame duck Senate to approve with 51 votes the next Attorney General?
Well, Eric Holder, I'm afraid, is like the house guest who stayed too long, but he was just such a bad house guest. He almost burnt the whole house down while he was here because he was destroying our constitutional principles every day he was in office, so he couldn't have left too soon. He's the Attorney General who presided for the first time over the claim that the president didn't have to enforce the laws passed by Congress because he didn't like them. So I think he couldn't have left too soon, and his resignation is of great benefit to the American people. I do think that if President Obama wants to make sure that there's going to be even more partisan gridlock and bad feelings between Congress and the president, Republicans and Democrats, and I think the American people is reflected in elections, then the first thing he should do is try to jam through some kind of partisan ideologue through the Senate after it's been effectively replaced in the November elections.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you about this Ebola threat. When it comes to national security, you were so good at helping keep us safe when it came to the terrorism aspect of national security in those days after 9/11. Would you be in favor of banning flights from any of these countries in Africa that have an Ebola problem? And what would the legal ramifications of that be?
Well, yeah, I think it would be a good idea as a precaution if we don't know the scope of the outbreak to halt all flights from countries where we know there is Ebola to the United States. I think that makes good sense. I think what we're seeing this administration, it's like it's dragging the American people through all the bad disaster movies of the 1990s. I mean, this is like the movie Outbreak, isn't it? And
oh boy!
And I think the legal implication: the United States has the legal authority to protect its own borders and to control who comes in and out of the country, it certainly can decide for public health reasons and safety to stop flights from Ebola, countries with Ebola from coming here. I don't think that's even a hard question. I can't believe the administration hasn't even taken that precautionary step at first and then open up the flights as we get more medical information.
John, it sounds like common sense. That's why it's not been done. I thank you, sir. Great to talk to you, John. John Yoo, ladies and gentlemen. And we will be back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show with the panel. Don't go away.
Have you ever been stopped by a policeman for a traffic violation? Of course you have. Millions of Americans are regularly stopped by the police for traffic violations and other reasons. Now here's the question. Is it legal for you to surreptitiously hit the record button on your smartphone and tape the conversation with the police? Well, it all depends on which state you were stopped. If you were in about a dozen states like Massachusetts, California, or Florida, don't go near your record button. In Massachusetts, the top court has ruled that recording a policeman is a crime unless you tell the cop you're doing it. Many states have privacy laws that make secret recording of anyone illegal. And in some states, you're free to record the policeman in the exercise of their duty, but not to record other ordinary citizens. Illinois passed a draconian law saying that if you tape a police officer on the job, you could face as much as 15 years in prison. An appellate court overturned the law, and the Supreme Court upheld that specific ruling, but it failed to rule on the issue as a whole. The Massachusetts case was particularly egregious because the cops were spouting racist talk to an African-American driver who recorded the conversation to protect himself. Instead of the cop being fired, the victim of the racist talk was prosecuted. Bad decision, but it's still the law in that state. In 38 states like New York and Virginia, it's legal to turn on the record button, but don't do it. In general, I advise you not to, because if the policeman catches you, he might figure out some way of getting even. And don't forget that in almost all states, it's legal for the police to audio and videotape you. Many police, even on traffic stops, have microphones attached to their body and are recording your comments. In other places, the police have video on the hood of their car and they're recording your movements. So don't forget that fact and remember your state laws and act accordingly. I'm Alan Dershowitz for Newsmax TV.
President Obama says America leads the fight against Ebola in West Africa. I'm Miranda Kahn. This story tops your Newsmax Now update. The president says U.S. doctors are helping victims in the hardest hit countries, including Liberia, where officials say they'll prosecute a man who brought Ebola to the U.S. Authorities say Thomas Eric Duncan may have lied on a health form about not having contact with an infected person. And Texas authorities asked Duncan family members to stay home amid concerns that they may spread the virus. Meanwhile, health authorities reach out to those who may have been exposed. That warning prompted many parents to keep their kids home. Health officials say no one shows symptoms of the virus. And the CDC now confirms a Hawaii patient doesn't have the virus. You can visit our website for the very latest details. That was your Newsmax Now update.